The Healthcare Security Cast is sponsored by 3D Network Technology. Reliability is our core value. Visit www.3dnetworktechnology.com. And by Genetec, delivering security strategies for healthcare. Visit Genetec, that's GENETEC.com. And by the Change Execution Group. Visit 360lifetransformations.com. Before we get into today's show, I want to invite you to connect with the Healthcare Security Cast on a new platform. It's a text-based platform called Community. To join, all you have to do is text my community number, and that number is 647-372-2042. That number again is 647-372-2042. The first message is automated. It's just to get you set up and added into the system. Everything after that will be direct engagement with me. This platform will allow you to stay up to date on everything that we're doing on the Healthcare Security Cast, as well as engage with me one-on-one. Also, as we move forward, there'll be other opportunities to connect with study groups and special interest groups. Your information is kept private, and you can opt out at any time by simply texting STOP. Again, to join, just text JOIN to 647-372-2042. That's 647-372-2042. Right now, text messages can only be received from Canada and the U.S.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast, the podcast dedicated to healthcare security, safety, and emergency management. If you are involved with a healthcare security program or desire to be, this podcast is for you. Join the conversation as we discuss the issues that matter to healthcare security professionals while leveraging the expertise of healthcare security thought leaders and experts in personal development. And now, here's your host, Brian Hamilton.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast for Tuesday, August the 11th. Today I'm joined by Connie Packard. Connie, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Brian.
And we always like to start off by learning about who we're speaking with today. So I'll start off by asking, who is Connie Packard?
Wow, that's a great question. I guess it depends who you ask on a good day. No, I'm from the New England area. I grew up here all my life. I'm an only child. I played a lot of sports in high school and in college. I liked soccer and basketball and track and field. One great accomplishment, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame at my college. So I'm pretty excited about that. I stayed in New England for my college education. I went to a school in Newport, Rhode Island, which had beautiful views. So amazingly, I still passed. It's right on the water. And then I finished up with my master's at Boston University. And then that was in criminal justice. So that's how I got to where I am. I never thought I'd be in healthcare, but I'm sure I'll explain to you on the way how I got here. And then it's no surprise, people who know me, I spend a lot of time on the golf course, as much as I can. In fact, I went out this morning at 6:30 and played 9 holes, but I'm in the office. So spare time, I like to read. I do crossword puzzles, and I volunteer with an elders association, which I'm extremely passionate about. So I think that's how people would describe me.
Awesome. Well, that's quite the accomplishment, being inducted to the Hall of Fame. Not too many people can say that, a Hall of Fame of any type. But if the Healthcare Security Hall of Fame is a thing, I'm sure you'll definitely be inducted into that as well.
That would be great. That would be another achievement.
Now, you did allude to your career path a little bit, but could you go into more detail and tell us what led to you being where you are today?
Sure. When I first got out of college, like others, I wanted to travel. I accepted a position with a company, RCA, who was doing work with the Department of Defense. So I got to travel and was doing some fraud cases for the government. I unfortunately had to come back to New England. My mom got ill, which got me back into looking for a criminal justice career path in Massachusetts. And like others, always wanted to be a police officer. I was signing up for all kind of lists and got picked by the Department of Corrections. I actually worked in the prison for a little while. Not an easy role, and soon had the opportunity to join Boston University Medical Campus Security Department as a sergeant. And so that's how I got my foot in the job here. soon thereafter, around 1996, there was a merger between Boston University and University Hospital. And that's how I met Kevin Toohey, who most of you know. And he hired me to handle this merger and to run the security program. So I owe it all to him for many years of getting me in the healthcare security arena. And then a few years after that, there was a second merger. In fact, Brian, it was one of the first in the country between a public hospital and a private hospital. Boston City Hospital merged with the University Hospital side and became what it is today, Boston Medical Center. And, you know, the reason I'm here for 32 years with the combined BU and BMC, as most of us know in healthcare security, there's no 2 days that are alike. You leave here sometime a little, you know, frustrated, challenged, and then other times you leave here very elated at things that have happened and how well we've treated people. So that's how I got to where I am today as the Chief of Public Safety.
Awesome. Now, one of the things you mentioned there was Kevin Toohey, and I'm sure he's had probably a tremendous impact on your career. Do you have anybody else that you look at as a mentor or an influencer or just someone that you've learned from in this industry? And how have they impacted your career?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Yeah, as I mentioned, I do owe a tremendous amount to Kevin. He taught me the ropes on healthcare security. And, you know, more importantly, I learned as a leader, very young, starting out, even as a sergeant, is that, you know, you got to walk in the shoes of your men and women who do the job. And so there was some officers that Kevin introduced me to, like Luigi Montanello. And, you know, at the time when we were looking at City Hospital, Bill Gibbons was, you know, someone that I learned a lot from, who still is with me today. Another gentleman, Mark Coffey, who's still here. You know, so I learned from others. You know, it's obviously Bonnie Michaelman is, you know, a trailblazer for women in the field of healthcare security. And I leaned on her. I leaned on many members of the Boston chapter, which is how I got into IHSS. You know, they were a great group of people, excellent networking. Again, not knowing anything about healthcare, I certainly turned to them. And I would probably mention, you know, there's so many, I don't want to forget them, but, you know, Marilyn Hollier brought me into IHSS volunteer group with the Education Council. You know, and when she called me to do it, I didn't know what to expect. And you know, I found it very interesting and learning a lot about the ACE and finding the right speakers and doing all that planning. I actually enjoyed it until she left and left me in charge. But, you know, that's what we get for volunteering. But I would have to say that those are the people that made me what I am today, and I'm extremely thankful for that.
Awesome. No, there's definitely some well-known names in there, and people who've been very impactful on the industry. You know, you mentioned Bonnie Michaelman, for example, being both the president of IHSS and ASIS at different times, and you know, a trailblazer for women. I think not even just for women, just for security leaders in general. She's had a tremendous impact on the industry. And you know, Marilyn Hollier, who was on last week, had a pretty big impact as well. I remember actually meeting her back in 2014 at an event in Toronto and being very impressed with what she was doing at that time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, you know, they set the example. They're great leaders. You know, there's so many other people that I've learned from along the way and can call up and, you know, just ask a question or find out what they've done and learn, you know, some things work, some things don't. And sharing of ideas, I think that's what IHSS networking is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Boston chapter, obviously, we know is a really strong chapter. You know, I think of people like Ed Stedman and you know, Steve, who always helps out at the ACNE with the auctions and things like that. Like, there's so many people in that chapter who are very involved. So definitely a lot of good mentors and people to learn from there.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, the main focus of our discussion today is to just allow everybody who's listening to get to know more about the board of directors and the members that make up the board of directors. So I'm just hoping that you could share a little bit about, well, not a little bit, go into as much detail as you want, but if you could expand a little bit of what you already spoke to, and just in terms of your volunteer leadership experience with IHSS and, you know, what that's meant to you.
Yeah, and so when I found out about the association, I don't think Kevin asked me to join. It was kind of like mandatory. You must become a member of the Boston chapter. Yes, boss. But I'm glad I did. And, you know, I went to the meetings for a couple of years and then had the opportunity to be the Boston chapter chair, which I really enjoyed, you know, working with John Driscoll, Mike DeBeek, you know, Ed Stedman, Gus, there were, you know, Bonnie, everybody that's from the Boston area. It was wonderful to learn more about healthcare with that group And, and then shortly thereafter, it was Mr. Stedman, which I don't know of anybody that can say no to Ed. And it certainly wasn't me. So he asked me to look at the foundation. And so, after the Boston chapter and doing the education council, Ed said to me, would I like to be on the foundation board? And at the time, I didn't know much about it, but I was very intrigued about the scholarships and research. And so I said, sure. Once again, was holding my hand up high to volunteer when I had the opportunity from the board to ask me to be the president of the foundation, which I was very honored to do. And it's come a long way. And I think that we've had some great research and been able to provide scholarships to people to continue with their career. And then, I kind of stayed away. I don't know for what reason or not, that running for the association board. I thought that I had a lot on my plate at one time. And then, Colleen and others, wants to talk to me into thinking about it. And yeah, I threw my hat in the ring last year, and I'm glad I did. Again, I like working with all of you that are on the board. And now we have Virginia as our leader, and I look forward to where it's going to take us.
It's funny that you mentioned it was kind of mandatory volunteering. A lot of us, I think a lot of us can say the same thing, that we've been involved in associations like IHSS, for example, because someone basically told us, and we found our way in there and got some really good experience, and benefited on our own terms from it as well.
I agree, and the association has grown tremendously in the 20-something years I've been involved with it, and it just continues to grow and continues to be recognized as one of the experts in our field, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Excellent. Now, you kind of alluded to this with your last answer. Is a great segue. But in your current position on the board, what do you find most exciting about the direction of the association now?
Wow, that's another great question. I think that I had the opportunity, I'm sure others did too, but when I was president of the foundation, I was actually a liaison to the board. Certainly didn't have any voting rights, but I would attend their meetings, attend their strategic planning, and was, felt very part of the group. And so I had a little advantage before I came onto the board of knowing the expectations. But, working with Colleen and everyone else, the past presidents, the strategic planning was always very interesting to me. I thought that they spent a lot of time. It started out with, 4 or 5 presidents ago and continue to move up. And the progress, you can see the progress, that we have more goals than we've ever had before, attainable goals. And I remember one time getting a call from Colleen and Kevin, to do a speaking event with Tom Smith at ASHE. And I was pleasantly surprised, to say the least, when I thought it was going to be like a general speaking engagement with maybe 400 people. So, having, 1,500 to 2,000 in the audience was like, okay, we've made it. IHSS is on the map. But again, it made me realize that people are looking at us as the experts, and our name is getting recognized, and we owe that to previous board members. And I think that Virginia, I look forward to working with her and you and others, that this is the business and the way that the direction of the association is going.
Excellent. Now, I want to shift focus a little bit from IAHSS and still focus on that volunteer leadership piece. And you had alluded to some work that you do earlier with with Friendship Works. So would you mind talking to us a little bit about that experience and I guess actually what the association does, because I'm sure it's going to be new to a lot of people.
Right. Yeah. And the timing, so Friendship Works, I don't know, it was somewhere around 1999, 2000. It was called Interfaith Matchup. Certainly sounded like a dating app for the church, but I found it in my bulletin, and I was trying to find something to volunteer with that I could, certainly have done stuff with the Boys and Girls Clubs, but I wanted to do something with elders. I've always had passionate in my heart to work with elders. I missed my Nana and, my mom and everything. And so I wanted to get into something. So, I called up, and what I found out about the organization was, it started out in the basement of the executive director, that when she realized that there was a problem with elder isolation. And, during COVID, I think we all know what isolation is now, but 35 years ago, this organization realized that there was a need to help the elders and to make sure they could stay in their home. And so with the grant from Johnson & Johnson, they started this program, and it changed the names from Matchup to Friendship Works. And I volunteered and I visited these women over the years. I've had a few, they call them matches, a lovely woman, Norma, and then I moved on to Evelyn, and, she lived to 102. I get more out of it than they did, quite frankly, Brian. It's wonderful to hear the history, what they went through, their families, and after volunteering, I was asked to be a board member for Friendship Works as well. And that I definitely volunteered for. I wanted this organization to go far. It's non-for-profit, and so it's based on donations and getting the word out. And we just had our 35th gala, and I was president of the board for the last 5 years and just stepped down. But I'm very passionate about it. I continue to speak about it in any venue. We've certainly got a lot more press lately because of COVID, knowing that there's elders that are isolated, and you can't visit hospitals, you can't visit nursing homes. And so, I'm very proud of it, and I enjoy volunteering with it.
No, that's amazing work, and it's great to hear about that. But yeah, it's interesting. When I was doing some research and I stumbled across the fact that you were on the board of directors there and serving as the board president. It's awesome stuff. I don't know how you fit it all into your days, and still have time to play golf.
That's a well-known kept secret. It's like everybody says, what are you doing? I'm like, well, every day ends in Y. So I'm doing something on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. And I fit it all in.
Awesome. Now, I want to circle back to your career in healthcare security. Now, specifically, obviously, you mentioned that there's been some mergers within your organization, but essentially, you've worked with the same organization for your entire career. So, as you've moved up the corporate ladder, so to speak, what are some of the challenges that you've risen above to establish yourself as a respected industry leader?
Wow. People who know me know that I don't back down from a challenge. I like challenges, but in this particular question, Brian, I'm not quite sure I would direct them all as challenges as moving up, but they were more learning experiences for me. Certainly made mistakes along the way, certainly learned from them, learned that you have to lean on others. As I said before, whether it's not just about being a woman in this industry, but at times, yes, you have to prove yourself that people understand the respectfulness and the expectations, and that you're knowledgeable in this field without, crossing those borders and being able to compromise, I think was one of the things that, we all had to, for public safety, in general, to make sure the mission of Boston Medical Center could be met. So, I think it was getting the collaboration of relationships. You work closely in a hospital with the nursing department, you work closely with physicians. It's a whole variety of folks that we work with. And I think that I'm proud to say that our group is looked at, as the can-do people. Whenever you need something, whether it's public safety related or not, and I'm happy to say that that's the expectation as the leader of the group, is that, we will do whatever is asked of us. In fact, that I have an acronym that my team knows. It's MBWA, and they're always like, oh, Chief Packard, that's managed by walking around. And so I think, again, when you get yourself out there and feel like you can walk in their shoes and balancing everything, people do have the respect for you. They know that you're willing to come to the table and handle any challenge that you may receive. But I've been one of the lucky ones, I think. I think one of the harder things that I've dealt with here is when we have to deal with external law enforcement, which is sometimes on a daily basis. And I don't think they expect to see me arrive as the person they're meeting with, quite frankly. And that's something that's changing in the world. But and then once they know they can, the job's going to get done, I'm very pleased to feel that there wasn't any challenge I couldn't handle. But I'm still learning.
And that's the important thing. We have to be learning every day. But now, I guess in kind of to follow up with that question, in light of everything that's happening right now, what are some of the challenges or I guess learnings that you've had as a leader in the healthcare setting, and how have you adjusted to them with everything that's happening right now?
You mean in the country with COVID and the protest and a little of everything?
Yeah, a little of everything. The civil unrest, COVID-19, it's impacting us all. So
sure. Yeah, I think when COVID hit, the greatest implication for us is to push on the message of compassion. We started to see so many people unfortunately passing away, some of BMC's own employees. It was tough on the team, restricting visitors, people were dying, and just the first line they see at the front door is a public safety officer, and being able to have that compassion. And I think we've had to adjust there. Secondarily, we continue to look at our staffing patterns and debrief daily to make sure our team was staying safe. This should be no surprise, even before the protest, that, crime doesn't stop. And so for us, we still had criminal elements in and around the campus that was going on. And we have a large contingency of quality of life issues in our neighborhood. So, substance use disorder and homelessness. And those folks weren't social distancing. They certainly weren't wearing masks. And, we wanted to make sure that the risk to our officers was taken care of. So I think that when we looked at COVID, when it came on, and again, putting an emergency operations center together, running it 12 hours a day, being prepared for whatever would happen, whether PPE or shutting access points. It's, there was a time when I got this eerie feeling that how quiet it was. It brought me back to the Boston Marathon bombing week, that this, Boston Strong and the city came together. Well, the city was certainly coming together again. And BMC was no exception. We really went out on a limb to make sure we could take care of a lot of people and do it safely. But, this pandemic is new, and we weren't, other than making any other changes we could, it was trying to close down entrances and make sure we had the proper equipment, and then providing any service we could, that, giving out masks, getting shuttle buses together to transport people between buildings. And it was just stepping up. So I think that's one of the things, what's gone on. Regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, we have a very diverse group here. We have training in racial disparity. One of our hospital is known as a safety net hospital. So even when we look at healthcare as being, diverse and equity issues, we certainly have looked at how we treat people. In fact, I was quoted recently as saying, CPR in healthcare stands for, what we all know as life-saving measures. But I send the message to my team that CPR stands for being courteous, professional, and respect. And to me, that saves lives too. You don't have these confrontations if you treat people the way they want to be treated. And it's tough around the country right now, everywhere. And men and women in uniform are being challenged in ways they never thought they would be. And respect for police in general is really on the front line. So we just keep the message out there that you have a job to do. The reason you're in uniform is we've been giving you the authority, but how you use it is what needs to stop from the top down. And as my expectation is, you wear the uniform with authority and use it as you must. You may be assertive, but I'm not looking for aggressiveness. And so that's the message we've sent, and we've been very lucky with it here. And we have a great support. Our place, Brian, is like 99% unionized. And so we have a great support from the nurses and the support service staff. And I haven't had, luckily, too many issues with concerns about the recent injustice.
Excellent. Now, I guess just given your time at the hospital, you've been through, your career would have spanned a lot of these significant incidents. So obviously everything that's happening now, SARS a few years back. I know there were some incidents that happened at the hospital, specifically Boston Marathon, which you've mentioned. What are some of the major takeaways that you've had from dealing with the fallout from some of these occurrences?
Yeah, I don't think it was much of the follow-up. Again, to me, everything is a learning experience. And I think that we always sit back and what was good, bad, and ugly, and work it out. What could we have been better at? There's always, right now, the city of Boston, it's national news. We're going through, an uptick in violence in the city, and we're a level 1 trauma center. So 80% of the violence comes here, and we know what comes with it. So being prepared, my staff is not armed. They certainly have the tools to do their job. So we rely on a lot of intelligence from the City of Boston Police Department and getting information so we're prepared to protect our patients and protect our staff. But overall, I think that every situation that's happened, we've had plane crashes, we have train crashes, we have a great emergency management director in Maureen McMahon, who's part of our team. And we're always receiving much more training and on communication and being proactive. We've done a lot of video drills, for active shooting incidents, and those are all online, and we share them to everybody who would want them. So I think it's always just been being prepared for the worst case scenario, but you hope it never happens.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, obviously, we've covered quite a bit here. Is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that you want to discuss?
No, I mean, they've been great questions. You really, you put me on the spot a few times as to making sure I try not to forget anything of what we do, because like I said, no 2 days here are alike. I'll probably write a book, but I don't think it will be published. Certain things that have to remain private and privileged. But no, I just want to, a shout out to IHSS that, without me being involved and traveling to all the other ACEs and getting to know people, from Tom Smith, Tony York, Don and yourself and all the other people from Vancouver. I've had the opportunity to travel and meet a lot of people and made friends out of it, not only professional, we've had some golf matches out there, and people will tell you that the real outcome, but I'll leave it alone. and it's just, I feel like it's been my second family somewhat. And I think that the only message I would give to people is to keep an open mind. The world of healthcare safety and security is ever changing always. We need to change with it. I think there will be some, scrutiny moving forward as to what campus police and public safety look like when legislation may change. But I think you can always be better. Keep mentoring the younger group. We plan on retiring soon, I think. So I don't know. It depends on how the world is. But, you got to look at, mentoring and young leaders and bring them to the table and move up. And that's always been my goal, is to have a succession plan and making sure that people can continue the mission that we've started.
Excellent. And I guess as we close out, what is the best way to connect with you?
Sure. You can always reach me by email. It's connie.packard@bmc.org. If you email me there, I will respond and you'll have my direct office line. I'll be more than happy to talk to anyone with security questions, anything about IHSS, by all means. If you're not a member, please join. I think you'll find it a wonderful association with a tremendous amount of information that you can use. The guidelines committee is one of the best I've worked with and used their guidelines in most of my meetings and most of construction changes. I think that it's, kudos to Tom and Kevin and all the others, Don, that put that together, because that's been one of progress that we all should be very proud of.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Connie, and thank you for taking the time today. I always enjoy the opportunity to converse with you and learn from you. So thanks again for that.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Anytime.
And this concludes another episode of the Healthcare Security Cast. Join us again next week when we're joined by Eddie Sorrells and Jordan Mendoza. Just a reminder, if you haven't done so yet, join my text community. All you have to do is text me. Text START to 647-372-2042. That number again is 647-372-2042. Thanks again for joining us, and until next week, stay safe and take care.